I'm Preston Schrader, Seed and Trait Technology Development Rep. We're here in a DEKALB plot today here in East Central Illinois to look at corn rootworm feeding. So over the past couple of years, rootworm pressure has really been low, especially here in East Central Illinois. But this year we're starting to see an uptick in overall beetle numbers, populations. The populations really seem to be rebounding. So we're gonna dig up some non-traded, some non-below trait corn plants here just to see what the rootworm feeding looks like. So when I get to a field, I typically like to dig 5 consecutive roots from 4 different parts of the field. Because rootworm pressure isn't uniform across an entire field, it tends to be spotty. So in order to get the best chance of seeing where that pressure is, I recommend digging from several parts of the field. So for this demonstration, we're gonna dig this plant right here. I typically like to take about 1 foot to 1.5 foot cube of soil around the root and make sure I don't shear off any of the roots with the shovel. So the next thing I do is make a handle out of the root off of the stalk. So I just chop it so I can carry it to the pressure washer. I like to knock off some of the excess dirt on the shovel to make pressure washing easier. And then we are ready to wash our root. So now that we've dug the roots, we're going to dunk them to knock off some more extra dirt, and then also to float larvae if there are any, and before we take them to the washing station. So I typically dunk them, knock off some of the excess dirt, and I sometimes even let them just sit for 5 minutes. But for purposes of time today, I'm going to take it straight over to the washing station. This is just my own invention of a hog panel. It holds the roots steady while you're pressure washing them. So I turn on the pressure washer, put on the safety glasses. Okay, now we'll evaluate the roots and see what they look like. So when we rate roots, we rate them on the 0 to 3 node injury scale, which is the Iowa State scale. That scale is based off of rating the top nodes, the top 3 nodes, or the 6th, 5th, and 4th nodes. And it's a cumulative scale, so it's based off of how many roots are actually pruned down to within an inch and a half of the base of the plant, or if the root originates above ground to the soil line. So an inch and a half pruned within the soil line. So what I typically do is I start at the top, look at the first node. These brace roots haven't yet made it to the soil surface, so I'll just bend all of these roots back. Next, I'll look at the 5th node and start breaking these roots off to take a closer look and see if they've been pruned. When I'm looking for rootworm feeding, I typically look for discoloration or scarring along the root. Here at first look, I can see some channeling where the larvae have been actively feeding along the root. There's a discoloration and a channel that goes along this root. So we've definitely seeing some root feeding, and I'm seeing 1 or 2 roots that are actually pruned off. I'm seeing some amount of regrowth. Typically the plants try to compensate for the pruned roots by growing these fibrous, smaller roots to help water absorption. But overall, I would say this is going to be about a 0.2 because of the fourth node. I'm seeing 2 pruned roots. So 2 out of 10 would be a 0.2 on the 0 to 3 scale. That's decent pressure. It's more pressure than I was anticipating. I got this corn plant from a rotated field, so I really wasn't expecting to see a whole lot of damage. However, between this root and the other root we just dug here earlier, a 0.2 to a 0.5, we're definitely seeing some yield impact from rootworm feeding. So especially if this field were to be rotated back to corn, it's at a pretty high risk for rootworm pressure next year, unless there are some environmental conditions that would control them. So I would definitely recommend below ground trait such as a Smart Stacks. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to your DEKALB agronomist.